Be prepared for something new. Everyone is different. So are you. Stay straight. No masquerades. Do things that you'll remember. You can push too far, but stay fair. Stay on track. Give it your all. Get to the bottom of things. Decide what's right. Don't believe in what the others do. Find it out for yourself. Be close to it all. Bring your heart along. Follow your goals. Reach for the stars. Turn the weekend into the loudest party of your life. Are you prepared?
Hello everybody, a very warm welcome to the Hungaroring. We are just 15 kilometres or so from the wonderful city of Budapest, and we are about to see qualifying for the 6th round of the 2017 DTM Championship. It's warm, slightly humid here, and with some slightly overcast skies. Not looking like it's going to rain for this session, though. It could be quite hot when we get to the afternoon. There is René Rast, who is in his first full season in DTM, the multiple Porsche Super Cup champion, former German Porsche champion as well, who got his maiden pole position in yesterday's qualifying session for Audis, dominating the qualifying session, filling the first 5 places on the grid in that first session yesterday with René Rast, Jamie Green, Matthias Ekstrom, Nico Müller and Mike Rockenfeller. But in the race, they didn't manage to get onto the podium. There is Jamie Green, who finished in 7th place, and we'll talk more about the race a little bit later on. But overnight, the news coming through that he has provisionally been disqualified from the results of race 1. Championship contender, of course, Jamie Green. Mercedes protesting an element of the front splitter on the car. It is going to be appealed, so the disqualification is provisional, but that is how it stands at the moment. Augusto Farfus looking like he was going to be on for his best result in some time yesterday. He was running in 5th place. He was hanging on to the quartet of Audis at the start of the race, but he later on suffered contact from behind, which rather ruined his race. But Augusto Farfus and BMW looking quite competitive here this weekend. There is the 63 car of Maro Engel, who took a penalty late on. He was very, very late to pit yesterday, whereas some came in and pitted on the early laps. But Maro stayed out for a long time. So we had our 3rd free practice session of the weekend this morning, and René Rast dominated it by 0.5 of a second. He was on top from Jamie Green. Nico Müller going well. He got into the points yesterday after Jamie Green's disqualification, and Mike Rockenfeller continues his good form. You see there he was 4th fastest, and a couple of notable names down there. Rob Wickens only 11th place. Marco Wittmann, the reigning champion, struggled a little bit in free practice as well. There then is Jamie Green, who has been a very strong qualifier. Now we see on the right-hand side, pointing to this little section on the front splitter, this is what is coming under dispute, and that is the reason, this section here, which is only on Jamie Green's car, and was picked up by Mercedes, and they put a protest in, and that is why he was disqualified. So it is under appeal, but it is a very, very annoying situation for Jamie Green, of course, and he's already picked up 1 exclusion this year. That was for having the wrong tyres on in the qualifying session, one of the qualifying session at the Lausitz ring, and all these things sort of starting to stack up against him. Remember, Jamie's finished 2nd in the championship, he's finished 3rd in the championship, he's been a multiple front runner, he's been in it for years, he's one of the most winning drivers, he's never quite won the title, and it's you start to feel at times, what have we got to do to win this championship title? Chris Hartley and Leo Gorman here, trackside, ready for the lights to go out and the cars to get underway for this 20-minute qualifying session to determine the grid for race 2 to come. There the green lights are. Mike Rockenfeller is the first man out, getting very close to a podium yesterday, finishing the race in the end in 4th place. and he was the one on a charge. The race yesterday won by Paul de Resta, who was one of the drivers to pit very early. He, Timo Glock and Bruno Spengler coming from lowly grid positions. Paul winning the race from 13th yesterday. You can pit whenever you like. You have to have a mandatory pit stop. You can pit whenever you like in the race these days. They all pitted early. Later on there was a safety car as Maxime Martin's BMW stopped out on track. And it came just at a point where, and there's no communication between the teams and the drivers allowed this season either. So it came just at the point where the drivers might have had just about the opportunity to dive in just before the safety car came out. And of course, none of them realised, or at least I think Rob Wickens said to us after the race yesterday that he was on his in lap when the safety car came out. So although they hadn't picked up the safety car, they didn't pick that up until they got to turn one. I think the safety car boards had come out just before they got the opportunity to dive into the pits. And once the safety car is out in DTM racing, you can pit, but it doesn't count as one of your mandatory pit stops. So that really gave a huge advantage to those three drivers who had already got their pit stop out of the way. All the time they'd lost, they gained back. And then eventually, once everybody had to do their pit stops later on, they filtered through to finish first, second and third. But the regular pit stoppers, if you like, the best of them was Mike Rockenfeller, who finished in 4th place. Matthias Ekstrom in 5th. René Rast in 6th place. Both Eki and René Rast had led in the early stages of the race. Just to go back a little bit to the detail of Jamie Green's exclusion before we get into qualifying, Lee, a lot of the changes to the cars this year have revolved around standard parts on the cars, and that's something that a category that the front splitter falls into. But you can make some changes around the front splitter, can't you, to the architecture of it?
Okay, so yes, you're absolutely right, Chris. Effectively, what we have in DTM this year is a common splitter. So with the splitter itself, it's not. It was not regulated by ITR. The teams, Mercedes, Audi, and BMW, came up with a common design for the front splitter. But they've also put into the regulations that the architecture around that front splitter is actually common. You can have a certain amount of vanes and a certain surface area mustn't be covered. And that is effectively, I think, where the Audi of Jamie Green has been called out. It's not actually an incorrect design on the architecture of the splitter itself, but rather a piece of tape covering what should be an open gap in the splitter, and that's what they're arguing. Now we could be talking, minuscule, absolutely minuscule kind of advantage in the 0.00000 kind of.
But rules are rules, I guess.
Points, but rules are rules. Yeah. Talking to some of the Audi and Mercedes guys, they say that this area, the Mercedes guys telling me, well, this area was actually discussed for 3 or 4 weeks. After the season started, so this is agreed upon. The Audi guys are saying, well, actually, no, it wasn't. This particular area wasn't actually formally discussed. So we're there's a little bit of an occurring discussion there as to what actually the rules should definitely be.
Hence the appeal, and hence the fact it's going to rumble on for a few weeks. Bruno Spengler, you saw there, getting his first podium of the season from 17th on the grid. All the rest won from 13th. Timo Glock won from 14th. And third, from 17th on the grids, was Bruno Spengler. We saw a few moments ago Martin Maxam, who was the cause of the safety car, the BMW. Maxime Martin, the Belgian driver, had some contacts with Tom Blomqvist early on in the race. He carried on for 6 or 7 laps and then stopped on the track coming out of turn 2. And there was some discussion about why he'd stopped on the track, why hadn't he pulled off the circuit. And that was being looked at by the officials. So lots of different theories and rumours going around. And it did benefit those 3 drivers, 2 of whom were BMW drivers who managed to get into the pits before the safety car had come out. Maxime, however, has been punished for his collision with Tom Blomqvist early on in the race, who's also a BMW driver. So wherever Maxime qualifies for this race, he's going to have a 3-place grid penalty for the race later on today, as we see René Rast starting to get up to speed after setting pole position in yesterday's session.
Okay, the way I understand it, or the way it was explained to me anyway, is Maxime Martin's brakes. There was again an issue with the architecture that could have put the engine in danger had he carried on. That actual damage was initiated by that collision with Blomqvist in the first lap of the race.
Yeah, it was.
So it seems
Rast goes quickest, by the way, with a 140.4, second quicker than Gary Paffett at the moment.
So it seems that what was really brought out, raised the eyebrows a lot of people, is just where he actually stopped on circuit, because he stopped on the inside of the exit of turn 4, well, you had actually on the other side of the road, you had a massive runoff area. So I think questions raised as well, why didn't they just pull off into the runoff area? But it seems that, well, they're saying that they actually just shut down.
And remember, there are no communications from team to driver unless it's resulting in, it's to do with safety. So if it's a safety issue, you can communicate, but otherwise, for race strategies and so forth, it is just back to good old pit boards. So here's Lucas Auer, championship leader still on 69 points, but out of the points yesterday for the first time. Difficult qualifying session, seen getting slightly out of shape there. Sliding and generating heat into the rear tyres there. And this 510 brake horsepower DTM car pulled the rest up. He goes to the top of the times with a 135.6. So good lap that from Di Resta to take provisional pole position in the very early stages. Yesterday's pole time, though, was a 1 minute 34.7. Timo Glock now goes to the top of the times with a 1 minute 35.6. So it's Glock fastest, 135.2 rather, 135.6 for Di Resta. Hafit's third now with a 135.79. Lucas Auer is fourth, but it's changing all the time as Jamie Green now goes to the top of the times with a 135.0. But you've got to be looking at, a high 134s really if you challenge for pole position today, I think.
What's interesting about today, Chris, is of course also that it's warmer than yesterday. We have less of a breeze, there's a little bit more humidity in the air. So what we will see later in today's race is maybe the tyres, the strategy that we saw from Di Resta, Glock and Spengler yesterday may not necessarily work today, as we see Marco Wittmann cross the line, go fourth position with 135.307. And that leaves him just 2.5 tenths behind the current top man, Jamie Green, as Lucas Auer sets a couple of personal bests.
Yeah, it's going to move up to seventh place, still half a second away. But three drivers haven't yet set a proper lap time: Spengler, Martin and Blomqvist. So only half of the BMWs have set a competitive time so far. So Green is fastest. Nico Muller has gone second, and it's all changed because Mike Rockenfeller now goes to the top of the times with a 1 minute 35.018. Best grid so far this year for Rocky has been fifth. He's been fifth on the grid twice, once at Hockenheim and once here yesterday. The best qualifier on average, if you ignore his exclusion at the Lausitz-Ring, has been Jamie Green. He's been the best qualifier. He's averaged fourth on the grid. Remember, this season, you get points, championship points, if you're in the top three in qualifying. It's 3 points for being fastest, 2 for second, and a point for being third. Jamie Green has picked up 4 championship points through his qualifying performances so far this year. He's currently second, and he stays second, but only just 61 thousandths of a second covering the top two. Rockenfeller hanging on to it. It's Audi's first, second, third. Timo Glock, the best of the rest in the BMW. René Rast now goes third.
And what we're actually seeing now is we're into the first one, we're coming to the end of the first set of laps. We're seeing a lot of PBs. We're not actually seeing any absolute fastest sectors at the moment, and that's partially because this track is only going to get quicker. So it's actually in the second runs in a few moments' time, that's where we're going to see the drivers really absolutely nail it. So at the moment, they're getting in good times, they're going to bank their laps. There's still reasonably good times, but I can see us really probably dropping a second off the current laps, or maybe 1.2 seconds off the current laps we have. So possibly pole, maybe looking into late 33s. I think that would be a good shout, and it would be interesting to see if René Rast can repeat the job he did yesterday, which was, of course, his first pole in DTM. Yep. He's rude, really rude yesterday, how yesterday turned out. To get pole position and only finish 6th, I think he wants to make amends today. Well,
for Audi, it was a bad day at the office as well, wasn't it? Admittedly, a bit of bad luck with the way it worked out with the safety car, but when you've got the top 5 places on the grid, you expect at least a podium, and didn't get it that even. So here's the driver that caused the safety car yesterday, picks up a 3-place grid penalty. Maxime Martin, the Belgian driver for BMW, who has been a very solid competitor in his season so far. Been up there in the top 6, top 7 in the championship on plenty of occasions. He hasn't had a great start to this season though. He's had a 4th and an 8th at the Lausitz-Ring. That was his best weekend so far. Hockenheim, he was out of the points.
It puts in a 12th place, 12th place time on his first run there.
Which will become 15th once the penalty is applied for the race. René Rast comes into the pits, so it's Rockenfeller fastest, 135.018. Green, there you see, into the pits, ready to change tyres and go back out for the second section of qualifying. It's done a 135.050 and 135.057 then for René Rast. So at the moment, you've got, 13 39 thousandths of a second between the top three drivers. Nico Müller, 135.1 is fourth. Timo Glocksten, a 135.2 in fifth place. Marco Wittmann going better this time, the double champion, 135.307 in sixth place. Ecke is seventh for Audi. Farfus in eighth place for BMW. Championship leader Lucas Auer, ninth. And that's the best of the Mercedes, isn't it? Ninth place for Lucas Auer. Paul di Resta, yesterday's winner, 10th, but that's fine because you can win from 13th on the grid.
And we saw yesterday in qualifying, Mercedes also struggled in the grand scheme of things. Their best drivers were Auer in 8th, Paffin in 9th, and then the rest of the drivers were all in the bottom half of the order. The new rules regarding qualifying this year, giving points for first, for pole, second, and third on the grid, really actually is very much reinvigorated the qualifying sessions this year. And of course, with the clued in as well with the additional strategies we see in the race with the softer tyres. So you really see the points from qualifying are actually probably going to make a massive difference come the end of this season.
Well, already Lucas Auer has picked up 6 points just from qualifying. Now that's the equivalent of points finish in the race, of course. So Jamie Green's picked up 4. Another one that's gone well is Robert Wickens. Actually, he's picked up 5 points so far in the standings. So this could make a big difference to them. And you can see easily, you know, halfway into the season, maybe 2/3 of the way into the season, people are going to be picking up 20, 25 points, almost the equivalent of an extra race win, if they can keep totting up these top 3 places on the grid. So at the moment, the pole position drivers that we've had, Lucas Auer was on pole for race 1 at Hockenheim. Timo Glock was on pole position for race 2 at Hockenheim. Round 3, the first race of the weekend at the Lausitzring, it was Auer with his second pole position. Rob Wickens was on pole for race 2, and René Rast yesterday picking up his maiden pole position. But so far this year, the race winners have only come from pole position twice, and both times it's been Lucas Auer. So Lucas, both of his race victories at Hockenheim and Lausitzring came from pole position. Jamie Green won a race from 3rd on the grid twice as well, once at Hockenheim, once at the Lausitzring. Then yesterday we had Paul di Resta 13th to 1st. But we've had lots of drivers with these different strategies at the back of the grid, pitting in early, that have gone well. Obviously yesterday the top 3 all came from lowly grid positions, as I've mentioned. At Hockenheim, Mike Rockenfeller came from 16th to finish on the podium in one of the races. Marco Wittmann came from 17th to finish on the podium in another of the races at Hockenheim. So it's just really opened up your options. If you do have a bad qualifying session and you are near the back of the grid, you can still actually get a really good result if you take a risky strategy, which may or may not pay off, but it's worth having a go.
Absolutely, Chris. And the other aspect as well, as we saw, as we were just chatting a moment ago about the points you can get for qualifying, let's not forget, Marco Wittmann won this championship last year by 4 points from Mortara. Yeah. So that plays a massive game, and it's very good to see how Rocky has really used the strategy in a couple of races so far this year, and we've also saw what di Resta, Glock and Spain could do yesterday. You know, starting low down the grid, pit really early, and then make the absolute most of it. But that is, it's also a strategy that is derived from being on the back foot. Realistically, you want the best chance to actually win the championship. You need to be qualifying in the front. You need to be doing what Auer's doing. You need to be doing what Jamie Green's doing, and to actually, be qualifying in the first 3 positions of the grid will actually put you in a position where you can score maximum points.
The risk is, of course, if you pit early, yes, if there's a safety car, that can negate a lot of the time that you lose, and you also get the benefit of running in clear air.
Same approach. Keep a clean out lap. No traffic at the moment, and then 1 prep lap.
So you go, keep out of traffic. Remember, you got new tyres on. Same process to get them up to temperature. And getting those tyres up to temperature without damaging them is really, really important, as Gary Paffett was saying to us earlier in the weekend. And he said you saw that in the races at the Lausitzring. There were big differences in positions in the race between the Mercedes, same car, but a lot of it was about how well you got the tyres up to temperature, both in qualifying and in the races, how you looked after them and how quick they were then later in the race. And that's where the really experienced drivers are going to come in. So Lucas Auer leading the charge. They're all going back out. 5 minutes, 22 seconds left on the clock. There's only about less than 4 minutes left on the clock once they get to their first flying laps. But you saw or heard the team saying to Lucas Auer there, 1 lap and then go for it. So really 1, maybe 2 laps is all they're going to get. Lucas Auer now in his 3rd season in the championship. Going slightly better in qualifying at the moment, but 9th, look, Mercedes, 9th and 10th. 13th, 14th, 15th, and dead last at the moment. So Mercedes struggling a little bit.
I'm going to put it out there, Chris, as we go into the last 5 minutes of this qualifying session. It's going to be a 1 minute 33.8. And if that's the case, then
33. You think that quick?
Yeah, I think a 1 minute 33.8. And if that's the case, then you can buy me dinner tonight.
Right. Okay. I don't think they'll get out of the 134s. It's going to be in the mid to high 134s. I reckon this is the best we'll get. It's 134.7 yesterday, so I know it's warm up, but we'll see. It's something you've got to be careful of. The tyres do heat up very quickly. There's Daniel Ankadea, who's involved behind the scenes. Not a race seat for him this year, but still very much involved with Mercedes.
I think the other aspect is that now we go into Sunday with a lot more information than we had for qualifying yesterday, because we've had the one qualifying session, we've had the race, and we also had third practice this morning. So I think, yeah, you're probably right. It probably won't get into the 33s, but I think it will take several tenths off the what was yesterday's lap time as well.
So Rockenfeller at the moment is, what, 32 thousandths clear of Jamie Green, and it's 39 thousandths clear of Rennie Rast, who is in third place. Nico Muller needs to find a 10th. With the exclusion of Jamie Green, that moved Gary Paffett up to 7th, Marco Wittmann up to 8th, Edo Mortara finished in 9th, and Nico Muller, who was just outside the points, was one of the drivers involved in collision mid-race, actually picked up the final championship points for the standings now. Lucas Howard's got 69, Jamie Green's got 55, Rocky's moved up to 3rd, Mike Rockenfeller on 53, Gary Paffett's close behind on 52 points in the championship. Audi Team Rosberg lead Mercedes-AMG Motorsport BWT in the team standings, 90 versus 97 points. And actually, that result, that exclusion, it would have been Audi leading the Manufacturers' Championship, but with the points taken away from Jamie Green, it put Mercedes into the Manufacturers' lead now on 220 points, 6 points clear of Audi, with BMW back in 3rd. And
here's an interesting little thing for you, Chris. Mercedes have finished last in the Manufacturers' Championship for 5 years running. Right. So now they really want. They've had drivers' championships in the meantime with Pascal Wehrlein, but they also want that. They want that championship glory as well for the manufacturer.
Okay, so Jamie Green trying to get himself a bit of track space. Then we're ramping up for the final stages of qualifying. Thibaut Glock goes across the line, 5th place, 1 minute 35.452. That is a couple of tenths away from his best lap, but it's on the 2nd flying lap that he should be able to maximise the tyres here. So Timo pushing on. Terrific drive through the order yesterday. Well, not a drive through the order, but a tactic to get him in 2nd place, working and looking after the tyres and holding on to his position with pretty old tyres at the end of the race yesterday. At the moment, he is the best non-Audi. Marco Wittmann has just set the fastest first sector of anybody in the session so far, 34.609. That's a very quick first sector. The 3rd sector is very, very important here in the lap as well. He's gone quickest in the middle sector, so quicker than anybody so far. Marco Wittmann in sector 1, sector 2. Can he hold it together in sector 3? Looks almost certain to improve upon 6th place, but how high up is the reigning champion going to get? Marco Wittmann coming through the final couple of turns, looking glued to the road here in the BMW. Out of turn 14, over the curbs. Where's he going to turn? He's dropped down to 7th. He goes up to 1st place. Provisional pole position for Marco Wittmann, 1 minute 34.803.
And Lucas Auer was on it as well. He set a personal best in sector 1 at 34.8, but he's gone fastest of all in sector 2. It's a 33.5. He was 2 tenths down on Wittmann in that first sector, but he's gained a little bit back. Is this enough for the top spot? He's 9th at the moment. It's only 5th place with a 135.109.
And you also had an improvement for Augusto Farfus up to 8th place. Ecky's 9th, Edo Mortara 10th currently. Paul Di Resta out of the top 10 as it stands. Gary Paffett struggling a little bit, down in 15th place currently as well. So Lucas Auer at the moment 5th on the grid. Better than yesterday. Not quite where he wants to be. Marco Wittmann holds all the cards. He's 2 tenths clear. It's a big advantage. What can Jamie Green do? Where is Jamie at the moment? 3rd place. Needs to find just about 2 tenths of a second, 2.5 tenths of a second if he wants to get pole position for the 3rd time. And Jamie Green through the first sector. 34.609 was Wittmann's time through here. Hanging on to it through that flat out left-hander.
Rast goes top, 34.7.
And that was just a solid lap, wasn't it? No purple sectors coming up all the way through the lap, really, but a very solid lap for René Rast, looking for his second pole position of the weekend, 134.703.
As Eki goes into P3, Wittmann now sandwiched by two Audis. Rocky P4, Green down to 5th as he's on his fast lap. There's no more time left. The checkered flag is out. It's going to be this lap or absolutely nothing.
Yeah, Green has dropped to 5th place now. Ara's dropped to 6th position. Are there going to be any late surges here? Wittmann goes across the line, doesn't improve, so he stays in, well, he goes into the pits actually, stays in 2nd place.
That's Blomqvist going up to P10 as Jamie Green coming around the last couple of corners.
Yeah, through turn 13, dragging across to the left, coming through turn 14 now. What can Jamie do here? Can he get himself, maybe not pole, but a little bit higher up the grid? At the moment, he's on the 3rd row of the grid in 5th place. He comes up to the lines, his last chance to improve, and he doesn't do it. 1 minute 35.314.
He made a mistake in the final corner, actually lost the back end slightly, and that cost him quite a bit of time in the final sector. And I think he lost a bit in the first sector as well, so just not quite coming together there for Jamie Green.
No, as I say, still on average the best qualifier. He hasn't had a pole yet this season. He's had a front row start with a couple of 3rd place starts from which he's taken race wins twice. But Jamie in 5th position. It's René Rast again, who is at the top of the time. Still got 1 or 2 to come through.
Nico Muller actually going P4 at the death with a 1 minute 34.9.
A couple of others come through, but no more improvements. I think it's going to be René Rast on pole position. Marco Wittmann will be well pleased. So will BMW in 2nd place. Matthias Ekstrom 3rd for Audi. Nico Muller 4th, right at the end there for Audi. Mike Rockenfeller for Audi in 5th place. Jamie Green for, guess who? Audi in 6th place. Lucas Auer, the best of the Mercedes, in 7th. Timo Klopp for BMW in 8th place. Augusto Farfus for Audi in 9th. And Tom Blomqvist for BMW in 10th place. So all the Audis up there in the top 10.
Well, it's interesting, actually. Rast's time actually is quite representative of what most of the top 10 did. There were actually almost no purple sectors in those final few laps. It was actually all personal best. So I think they must have completely dropped off in those final few moments, because normally in that second part of qualifying, when the rubber gets laid down and the track picks up more grip, but actually wasn't that. It seems they've almost hit optimum.
Saw that at the Lausitz ring as well. They went back out for the second part of qualifying, and not that many, certainly not the sharp end, were able to improve. Now, it's warmer yesterday, it's less windy, but overall it's looking like it's a very similar lap time, because pole today 1 minute 34.740, pole yesterday 1 minute 34.742, so 2 thousandths quicker today. So René Rast, right, he's going to get another crack at this. He got his first ever DTM podium at the Lausitz ring. He got his first ever DTM pole here yesterday. He now needs the hat-trick. He needs to get the first DTM win, doesn't he? And he's going to have a chance from pole position. But Marco Wittmann there, again, providing a very, very strong performance there for BMW. Even on the weekends where they perhaps struggle a little bit, he always seems to be one of their leading lights, doesn't he? Although, as I say, in terms of the championship this year, Timo Glock, 5th place in the championship. He's amassed the most number of points. And there is Eki in the top 3 once again. Led the race briefly yesterday. Some good overtakes from Eki. What will he do? Here then is confirmation of the provisional qualifying results. René Rast, 1 minute 34.740, 63 thousandths clear of Marco Wittmann. The gap even closer than it was yesterday between the top 2. Ekstrom 3rd, Muller 4th, Rockenfeller 5th, Green 6th, Auer 7th, Glock, Farfus and Blomqvist rounding out the top 10. Gary Paffett came up a little bit at the end to 11th. Paul the Rest won from 13th yesterday. He's got less work to do today because he's only 12th on the grid. Rob Wickens 13th. 14th place for Mortara, 15th place for Duval. Martin was 16th, but will go to the back of the grid with a 3-place penalty. So Engel and Spengler will both move ahead of him. So Spengler is going to be 17th on the grid, just like he was yesterday. And there, a super slow-mo of another solid drive from René Rast. René is 7th in the championship. He's only a point behind Ekstrom and Glock. And he started to string some results together. It's still very early in the championship. I wouldn't necessarily discount René Rast from the championship title race once we get into the second half of the season.
As I mentioned yesterday, René has proved to be something of a silent assassin over the years because he just picks up victories and he picks up championships, and it's all slightly under the radar, whether it be GTs or something else. He's always there. He's always at the sharp end. Okay, maybe DTM will be the time where he really becomes a massive, an international name. But everything he's always done, he's always been at the sharp end, and it'll be interesting to see if he can actually really make make good with the rest of the season.
There is Lucas Auer now in his third season at DTM. He was 23rd in the championship in 2015. He was 12th last year. He's leading it this year, so it's going in the right direction. Had his 40th DTM race yesterday. He's already a 3-time winner for European F3 driver as well for a few seasons. A couple of fourth place finishes in that championship. And Lucas Auer still leading the standings by 14 points with the race to come this afternoon. Here then, our top 3 on the grid for round 6 of the championship. Matthias Ekström, the Swedish driver and former champion, former double champion, lining up 3rd on the grid for Audi. Marco Wittmann, another double champion, lines up 2nd for BMW. Be very, very pleased with that, and oh so close to the time of the Audi of René Rast, who for the 2nd time this weekend gets pole position, and that is the first double pole of the year. And there René being welcomed back by everybody at the team in Audi after another superb performance. So this is where the grid is going to line up for the race this afternoon on row 1, Rast and Wittmann.
And row number 2, you got Matthias Ekström in the Audi, and another Audi alongside, it's Nico Müller.
Mike Rockenfeller going really well in this year's championship. He lines up 5th, Jamie Green in 6th.
On row number 4, Lucas Auer will be looking for a good start from 7th on the grid to make up for any lost points. Timo Glock, P8.
Augusto Farfus looking for some points here. So too, Tom Blomqvist. They both had difficult starts there on the 5th row.
Gary Paffett will be looking for a big result as well in his Mercedes. He's got his race winner yesterday, Paul Dressa, alongside him.
Rob Wickens and Edo Mortara start the race 13th and 14th.
Audi man Loic Duval, P15, with Maro Engel, P16.
17th for Bruno Spengler, and with his grid penalty, Maxime Martin goes from 16th down to last place in the BMW. So that's the way they're going to line up for the 55-minute plus 1 lap race later on today. It's going to be utterly fascinating with all the different strategies that we have. René Rast on pole position. We'll see you later on from the race. Here are the highlights from qualifying.